Hit like now so you won't miss episode 25. When Tu Diep, a resilient young woman, faces her past and endures workplace criticism, yet continues to strive forward. She also receives protection from Jack and experiences the genuine affection of the man she has always trusted. Early in the morning, just as she woke up, fog still clung to the broad leaves deep in the forest. Tu Diep, wearing a simple plaid scarf on her head, quietly made her way along a small slope. Basket in hand, her eyes searched for newly sprouted bamboo shoots pushing through the damp soil. A gentle breeze carried the faint, fresh scent of bamboo shoots through the still air. It was the start of bamboo shoot season. Each time her sharp blade sliced into a bamboo shoot's base, she felt a small sense of relief. On this trip, she hoped to harvest enough to earn some money for a few sausages for Haki, the little dog that always waited for her by the doorstep whenever she returned from the market. Meanwhile, not too far away, James, still in his neat office attire but wearing a windbreaker, stood at the forest's edge with a group of engineers and workers. They were surveying a plot of land set for the company's major timber extraction. This year's lumber looked good, according to the foreman. About 200 to 300 tons, mostly old-growth redwood and oilwood. However, the transportation route was treacherous, only accessible by motorbike or small pickup trucks, and it would take at least a month to haul everything out. James descended a small slope to personally inspect each marked tree. Sweat beaded on his forehead. He pulled out a handkerchief, wiped it off, and said firmly, "Increase the workers' allowance. Every meal needs to have vegetables and more meat. If they work hard, they should eat well." The manager nodded. James surveyed the forest once more, his gaze intent and full of responsibility. At daybreak, while the light mist still clung to the red dirt road, Tu Diep had already arrived at the small town market. She quietly laid out an old tarp once used as a rice sack on the ground. One by one, she pulled out fresh, crisp, early-season bamboo shoots from the bamboo basket on her back, lining them up neatly on the tarp. The shoots were fragrant and clean, sold at a fair price, 10,000 dong per kilo. So in no time, her supply nearly sold out. Once she was done selling, Tu Diep used part of her small earnings to buy a little baguette for herself, not forgetting 2 sausages for Haki, the small dog always waiting for her every morning at the porch. On her way home, she decided to take a shortcut through the forest to save time. Yet it was this shortcut that led her to an unexpected situation. 2 strange men, dressed in shabby clothes, appeared by the roadside. At first, they asked if she had any food to spare, but upon seeing she only had bread and sausages, they started making crude remarks, their eyes filled with ill intent. Tu Diep stepped back, gripping her bag tightly, her whole body trembling with fear. Right then, the roar of a motorbike broke the tension. Tung, James's friend, appeared. He stopped, his gaze sharp as he stared down the 2 men. "Hey, this path isn't meant for people like you. She has nothing to give your greed or your lecherous looks." Annoyed, the 2 men left. Tu Diep breathed a sigh of relief. Tung gently asked, "Are you all right? Let me give you a ride home. It's not safe on this road." Meanwhile, James was already at Tu Diep's house. Not seeing her around, he didn't hesitate to sweep the yard, gather vegetables, and feed the chickens. The sight was both unfamiliar and oddly comforting, like he had belonged there for a long time. A little later, the motorbike pulled up at the gate. Tu Diep stepped in, followed by Tung. She was taken aback for a moment to see James in the yard, hands still covered in dirt. "How long have you been here?" she asked, sounding a bit flustered. James smiled. "I came by to help you tidy up. Didn't expect to meet another friend of yours too." Tu Diep invited both of them inside. Though things felt a bit awkward at first, the 3 quickly settled into friendly conversation over warm tea. In that small kitchen, relationships began intertwining, and unnamed emotions crept into every glance, every nod, every faint smile. At the small table in front of the modest house, Tung sat next to James. He couldn't hide his concern as he asked, "How's Tu Diep's health check? Nothing serious, right?" James nodded slightly, then answered calmly, "No, she's just experiencing circulatory issues. The doctor confirmed she's not pregnant. It was all a misunderstanding from an initial diagnosis. Hearing that, Tung breathed a quiet sigh of relief. His face relaxed a bit, and he looked noticeably more at ease. Just then, Tu Diep came out from the kitchen, holding a bunch of vegetables, smiling and inviting them to stay for lunch. "I'm cooking squash soup and braised fish today. Will you both stay and eat with me?" Tung nodded right away. "I'll help you with the veggies." James also got up. "Then I'll rinse the rice and light the fire." The little kitchen filled with cheerful chatter. While Tu Diep was busy cooking, James turned to Tung and asked quietly, "Hey, do you like Tu Diep?" Tung looked James straight in the eye, not avoiding the question. "Yeah, I do, ever since the first time I met her. She's kind, gentle, and strong. And you made her cry. If you're not sincere, you should let her go." James studied Tung for a moment, then replied softly, "I'm grateful you've helped her in so many ways. But feelings aren't something we trade or give up. The final decision is hers." There was a slight tension in the air, yet it was full of respect. Shortly afterward, lunch was ready. The three of them sat under a shady tree, chatting as they ate. Tu Diep beamed when both men praised her flavorful sweet and salty braised fish. Soft laughter filled the air, dispelling the earlier heaviness. After lunch, Tung excused himself, saying he had work to do in his garden. Before leaving, he looked at Tu Diep for a long moment, as though he wanted to say something, then simply smiled gently. James stayed, helping Tu Diep tidy up the dishes. In the quiet moment, he asked her, "So how did you meet Tung?" "Washing dishes." Tu Diep answered softly, like a late afternoon breeze. "He fell in the pomelo orchard behind my house. I saw him and helped out a bit. Since then, we've run into each other a few times. He's kind, but I haven't really talked to him much." James looked at her. "And what do you think of me?" Tu Diep blushed, lowering her gaze. "You've always been nice to me, caring, and you make time for me. I'm grateful for that." In that moment, without any explicit declaration of love, they both felt the depth of a growing affection, simple and heartfelt. That morning, the lumber mill was cloaked in a somber mood. James arrived in a simple black suit, his eyes heavy with thought as he entered the machinery area. Antoine, the mill manager, hurried over, looking worried. "Sir, the timber from the forest still hasn't all arrived. The roads are slick because of last night's rain. The workers can't bring it down yet." "I understand. But what about the cutting machine?" James asked, frowning. "It's broken. There was a large metal bar inside one of the logs and it ruined the blade. It's wood we got from Beja." John sighed. James's eyes darkened at the mention of John. He turned to Tuan, speaking in a low tone. "You think they did it on purpose?" Tuan didn't answer, just nodded slightly. James crossed his arms, considering for a moment, then quietly ordered, "Inspect the entire new batch. If anything else is off, stop working with them immediately. Even if this load is usable, I don't want to deal with people like John." Around the same time, at a small stream behind the village, Tu Diep was shoveling sand into sacks. The early morning breeze was chilly, and sweat trickled down her forehead. She had rented a small tractor to bring back 3 sacks of cement, costing her 300,000 dong, leaving only 200 in her pocket. Tu Diep told herself, "I just need to redo the yard, make it clean and tidy. That alone will lift my spirits. I'll figure out the money situation later." Once she got back home, she paid the tractor driver and invited him in for tea. He declined because he had other deliveries, so Tu Diep sent him off with a smile. Just then, James arrived carrying a bag of fruit. He paused, seeing the sand and cement piled up in the yard. "What are you doing? These things are heavy," he said, eyes narrowed in concern. Tu Diep wiped the sweat from her brow and replied, "I just want to fix the yard so it's not muddy. I'm tired of seeing the dirt all the time." James came closer, his voice both scolding and warm. "Why didn't you call me or Tuan? This really isn't your job." She looked at him, eyes gentle. "I know you're busy. I didn't want to bother you." In that moment, James gently took her hand and spoke in a low, earnest voice. "Tu Diep, today I want to take you to dinner with some friends. Introduce you as my girlfriend. Come with me, okay?" Tu Diep froze. Her heart pounded, her dust-covered fingers trembling slightly. But then she nodded, a soft smile appearing, simple yet full of happiness. That afternoon, James drove Tu Diep into town. He stopped in front of a brightly lit clothing store and said gently, "I have a high school reunion tonight, and I want to introduce you to my friends. Let's go in and pick something nice." Tu Diep hesitated. She had never been in such a well-lit place, never stood among rows of clothes smelling of fabric softener, never felt this uneasy under the gaze of elegantly dressed sales assistants. She picked something simple, black pants with a white collared blouse, priced at 300,000 dong. A big amount for her. James suggested a dress, but seeing her reluctance, he simply smiled. "We'll save that for next time, but you should try these shoes. Not too high." He chose a pair of low-heeled beige pumps. Tu Diep slipped them on, wobbling a bit. She laughed awkwardly. "I'm not used to this." "You'll get used to it. You look great," James said, his voice softer than any compliment. The reunion was held at an upscale restaurant where James's old classmates gathered. Just then, he was held up by an unexpected phone call, so he told Tu Diep to head inside first. She walked in, feeling lost among the crowded room and the loud chatter. Her plain white blouse stood out among the designer outfits. A group of male classmates spotted her standing timidly near the entrance and called out, "Hey, can you grab us more place settings? Bring some ice over here." "Wait, do the servers dress like that now?" Tu Diep shrank back in confusion, her hands clenched, but she didn't say anything. She simply nodded politely and retreated to the corner of the room. Right then, James came in. He saw everything. How she kept her head down, how a few people snickered and gossiped. He strode over, gently putting an arm around her shoulders. "You guys have it wrong. This is my girlfriend, Tu Diep," he said. The dining hall fell silent. Some stumbled over an apology. A few women glanced at each other and scoffed. "James's girlfriend? She looks like a housekeeper from the countryside. Wonder what's so special about her?" After that, the gathering felt awkward. Sensing the unpleasant atmosphere, James found an excuse to leave early. He escorted Tu Diep to the car, saying little, but holding her hand more tightly than usual. She sat down on the doorstep outside, took off the shoes, and rubbed her sore, reddened feet. Softly, she said, "I think your friends don't like me." James sat beside her, clasping his hands together. "I'm sorry, Diep. I should have prepared better, but please don't be upset. What they think isn't as important as what I think, and I know you are exactly who I want." Tu Diep said nothing, only nodded gently. After James left, she stayed behind by herself, staring at the heels under the porch light. Her fingertips grazed the straps, and she thought, "Rich people, they wear high heels that hurt their feet, yet they still smile. How do they do that?" Then she let out a small laugh, both sad and proud. She knew she was also learning how to walk in those heels, carrying all her heart, her love, and her dignity as a girl who came from nothing but was determined to rise above it all.
Của bóng tối quá khứ, trái tim cô rơi vào những khoảng trống không tên, như khi ánh sáng ban mai đều nhẹ rọi xuống. Một sự thật dần hé lộ trong cô. Cô yêu anh dù nỗi tự ti vẫn như một sợi dây vô hình trói chặt cô lại. Liệu tình yêu ấy có đủ sức vượt qua những rào cản của số phận, hay chỉ là một giấc mơ ngắn ngủi tan biến giữa thực tại khắc nghiệt? Hành trình trong tập này sẽ mang đến câu trả lời đầy bất ngờ và dây dứt. Buổi sáng tại trang trại nhỏ, Diệp thức dậy sớm hơn thường lệ. Cô đứng bên khung cửa sổ cũ kỹ, nhìn ra khu vườn rau xanh mướt đầy dần nảy mầm, lòng chợt dần lên cảm giác bình yên hiếm hoi. Nhưng sự bình yên ấy nhanh chóng bị xáo trộn khi cô nhìn thấy Giang, người đàn ông với nụ cười ấm áp đã làm trái tim cô rung động. Cô nhận ra mình yêu anh không phải từ hôm qua mà từ rất lâu, có lẽ từ khoảnh khắc đứng trước cô